The opinions expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect those of Talk Radio AM 640.
10, 9, 8, 7,
Extreme radio for extreme times. This is A View from Space with the Spaceman on Talk Radio AM 640.
I'm the guy they call the Spaceman. This is A View from Space. I'd like to welcome you in if you're driving around right now listening to AM 640, picking up the show there. I welcome you in. Or if you're listening at work right now via the AM 640 app, I welcome you in too. Or if you're listening to me right now on Shaw Direct on channel 865, I welcome you in also. Or if you're listening on your 3 or 4G personal communication device via the Stream the World software, I welcome you in. Or maybe you're what some people call the best seat in the house to check out A View from Space. Logged on to 640toronto.com, picking up the live audio streaming there. I welcome you in. Wherever you are in the world, I welcome you in. What a royal week it was in the Illuminati-controlled mass media. Wow. And tonight I come to you from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, with a heavy canopy of chemtrails in the sky. The British Empire met the Empire this week to start off this royal week. Do you recall when Prince William and Prince Harry landed on the set of Star Wars at Pinewood Studios in Iverheath, England, where the two royal brothers met Luke Skywalker? Iverheath is the place where they're filming it all. Luke was there, Chewbacca, and other Star Wars stars. Isn't it just like the Illuminati to tie in the world's favorite movie franchise, Star Wars, with people that they want desperately to be enamored with? Royalty. I mean, after all, the whole Star Wars story concept revolves around the plan for the New World Order. And remember this, British royalty never, ever promotes anything they don't own. Why would they? It's all part of the firm. You see, the firm is the business end of the British monarchy. The royals are simply the titular head personages. There is a machine behind it. Reaches into entertainment, into banking, into business. It's the firm. The one-off flick Star Wars Rogue One is the thing that they were promoting. A standalone story set in the world of Star Wars with new characters going to be set to be released coming up this December. Exactly on the same day as the last one that was just released. I've covered this already on our previous show here on ABFS, Talk Radio AM 640, a few weeks ago. It's being shot in England, as I said. It's written by an English occultist, and earlier this week it was promoted by the New Look Royal Family Brothers. The Brothers Royal met up with Mark Hamill, who plays Luke Skywalker, and newcomers Daisy Ridley, John Boyega. They were on hand also as the princes roved through the set during the hour-long visit. the two royal brothers also did a little sparring with lightsabers, and everybody thought that was a bit of fun. Harry in red and William in blue. And they commandeered the cockpit of lightsabers, or rather of the A-Wing fighter after the lightsaber joust, and toyed with droids, BB-8 and C-3PO. How exciting was that? What great promotion, huh? Then the royal floodgates totally opened up once the Illuminati-controlled mass media got your attention with that at the very beginning of this royal week. Right at the start of the week. The key word? Prince. A couple of princes kicked it all off. It was the very beginning of the week, as I've just brought to your attention. Then Obama, with his visit to Saudi Arabia for a state visit. Saudi Arabia is very upset, as you're probably already aware, publicly with the United States right now as, well, it was the U.S., particularly the Obama administration, that allowed the great oil producer Iran, the Persians, the number one enemy of the Saudis, to again begin selling their oil on the world market. You talk about disruption. Oh, man, that is the biggest, because it's the price of oil, you see, that is scuttling everyone's economy. And as you're already aware, if you're a regular listener to AVFS on Talk Radio AM 640, you know the plan. The plan is to scuttle the economies of the countries in the world, knock down the borders, make one central bank, one country, led by one person. The one world government is on its way. Everything is geared toward that. And oil is the key. It's the largest selling commodity by far in the whole world. It makes everything run. And they're shutting everything down. Yes, they're allowing Iran once again to sell their oil on the world market, something the Saudis extremely deplore. So Obama was stood up upon his arrival at the Riyadh airport in Saudi Arabia when he came earlier this week. He wasn't met by King Salman, which is the usual protocol on a state visit, but instead, yes, that word again, by a prince. More on this when I return on Talk Radio AM 640. This is AVFS. I'm the Spaceman, and I'm just getting started. I'm the guy that calls space. It's a view from space on Talk Radio AM 640. Emails to spaceman at 640toronto.com or space at 640toronto.com. I communicate only by email. Let me call him MB. He writes, "You must be doing your brain show warm-up about now, because, Spaceman, you have the most on-fire brain show every Saturday night. Not for the uninitiated or the faint of heart, I must say. Thanks, and have a great show. MB." Well, MB, I don't rate them. I just do them. And, yes, there is an example of they start rolling in before the show even hits the airwaves. I thank you so much for each and every single one that I do get. I really appreciate them. I just want you to know that. And every time I read one, I'm going to tell you that. So, the royal floodgates totally opened up right after the two brothers, Royal, Prince William and Prince Henry. This is his real name, by the way, Henry, not Harry. Were dueling with the lightsabers to set it all up. More on that deeper into tonight's show here on Talk Radio AM 640. Now, as I said, they met the stars of the one-off Star Wars Rogue One. It's called, the standalone story that's coming out, set to be released in December. But princes. Then, Obama goes to Saudi Arabia to make the state visit to meet King Salman, and guess what? A prince stood up at a king. A prince meets him at the Riyadh airport. Yes, The Saudis are very unhappy with the United States, and also this possible trial coming up implicating the Saudis into 9/11. If you'll remember shows I did on 9/11, that came up quite often. But he wasn't met by the king, as is the usual protocol on a state visit, but instead by a prince. While the Saudi King Salman attended another welcome ceremony at Riyadh Airport. For who? The Gulf leaders. He skipped the welcome for the President of the United States. Instead, he sent the relatively low-ranking Riyadh governor to welcome Obama, a prince, reflecting the strained ties between the Gulf Kingdom and the U.S., of course. This was another Prince Day. All of this, of course, happening on the high witching ritual holiday of the 13 days I talked about a couple of weeks ago of the Feast of the Beast that I've been talking about lately on the show quite often. Because that's the season. That's here. It's now. It started this past Tuesday on what I'm calling this Royal Week. The Feast of the Beast, Tuesday, April 19th. Began it all. What is it? It's the high witching ritual holiday of 13 days of the Feast of the Beast. And if you recall, you heard the show I did on the model of the Temple of Baal at Palmyra in Syria, coming to some cities around the world, also known, by the way, as Moloch, the child sacrifice god, which are the sacrifices, child sacrifices, made to Moloch on this Feast of the Beast 13-day juncture that we're in the wheel of life in the year. April 19th, closing on May 1st with the May Day ritual. And there were only 2 cities that were involved at the beginning for this Temple of Baal to appear. They were New York City, and of course, the most occult city in the world, London, England. But this was canceled. Yeah, the Temple of Baal was canceled. Instead, it was another ancient structure that was chosen to replace it. Why? The replacement was the Arch of Triumph of Rome, and was delivered on time, set up April 19th, at the beginning, the very first day of the Feast of the Beast, on Tuesday of this week, delivered to London, England, Trafalgar Square. Only the center of London had it set up, but no Temple of Baal. Why? It turns out that the Temple of Baal was not brought in, and no one really knows why. The Illuminati-controlled mass media did not offer any reason either whatsoever of why. Instead of the Temple of Baal, another ancient structure was chosen. It was the Arch of Triumph instead, also in the ruins at Palmyra. This arch is also from there. It has everything to do with Baal, though, and the Feast of the Beast. Just listen. The monumental Arch of Triumph that was set up in London earlier this week, just in time for the Queen's birthday, and to mark the Feast of the Beast beginning, was built sometime during the reign of Emperor Septimus Severus, which lasted from 193 to 211 AD. Let me just remind you also, in Harry Potter, Severus is a character. Now, it linked Main Street, this Arch of Triumph, it linked Main Street of the Colonnade in Palmyra to the Temple of Baal. In other words, you had to have passed through the Arch of Triumph, built by Romans, to get to the Temple of Baal. The arch was meant to integrate the south and central parts of the colonnade, as its location marks the change of 30 degrees exactly in the orientation of the street. See, the royal number there evoked even in its positioning on the earth. According to some sources, this structure, this Arch of Triumph, was built as a triumphal arch to commemorate the Romans' victories over the Parthians. The structure was sometimes erroneously referred to in history, too, as Hadrian's Arch. But the Emperor Hadrian had been dead for over half a century when the arch was built. The ruins of the arch, along with other monuments in Palmyra, were depicted in engravings, too, by the British traveler Robert Wood. Of course he would be British, which were published in London in 1753 under the title The Ruins of Palmyra, otherwise Tedmore in the desert. This monumental arch is very revered, as well as the Temple of Baal, by the elites of this world. It's their religion. The Arch of Triumph was also partially destroyed, as was the Temple of Baal, but was faithfully restored back in the 1930s. You see, they take care of their religious sites. When the ruins of Palmyra became a tourist attraction in the 20th century and the early 21st century, the arch was made to be one of the city's main attractions with the Temple of Baal. But on Tuesday of this week, the Arch of Triumph, the gateway to the Temple of Baal, went up smack dab in the middle of London, just in time for the Queen's 90th birthday celebrations. Satan's favorite number, 9. How pleased the Druids must have been, who controlled the British monarchy, and through the power of the London banking cabal, known as simply the Firm, as I talked about a few minutes ago, control all the world's leading industrial nations. They are the ones pulling the strings politically, monetarily, and controlling all the world's leaders and business, summoning them to the Druidic bidding, who push the world toward a one-world government, a one-kingdom government. In other words, the global debt of all the countries in the world, and they're all in debt, owe this money to the London banking cabal, the European bankers. These global leaders, these heads of state, too, are all working towards this goal. A few rogue states that aren't willing to go along will soon be forced to. Just watch and see. Just like in the Star Wars franchise series, it tells the story. So does The Lord of the Rings, by the way. J.R.R. Tolkien's stories, for that matter, which brings me to the big event of the week. The titular head of this dragon, this octopus that has gripped the world, Queen Elizabeth, 90th birthday. Satan's favorite number, as I said, evoked here, which will never happen again. The Queen will only turn 90 once. That's why this was such a huge event for the controlling hierarchy of today's Druids. You see, you must understand one thing about the relationship with the monarchy of the United Kingdom and the ruling Druids. The Druids do not worship the Queen or King herself or himself. They worship the position, the office they hold. That's where the power is. The people change. The office only grows more powerful by each coming year. That's what is at the core of the Druidic belief system. The position the person occupies, not the person. But the person is always highly revered as the titular head through which Druidic control is wielded. Now does it make sense? A little more sense that the Palmyra display is set up on this high witching holiday, this 13-day blood sacrifice period that we're in right now, started this week as the Feast of the Beast in a place where the person that holds the highest office in the world, the Queen, and she is exalted with a birthday celebration of 90 years. Very royal indeed. The Temple of Baal, for its child sacrifices through the period we're in now, used fire as the instrument of death for the children. They were burned to death. The Queen accentuated fire with an ancient ritual when, by remote control, she set off the very first beacon at the special celebration at Windsor Castle earlier this week, the place she calls home sweet home. More on that in a minute. The first beacon, set off by Queen Elizabeth II, kicked the ritual off that followed immediately by local authorities who followed suit with their own beacons being lit up, creating a nation of flames of celebration of more than 900 across the country that celebrated her 90th birthday. There were over 1,200 and some beacons set ablaze. Fire, you see, is the representative of the sun here on Earth. The Illuminati are sun worshippers. Now, I said Windsor Castle was Queen Elizabeth's favorite place to be. Her words, not mine. Why Windsor Castle? First of all, it's the family's very first ever all-time permanent home in England. I'm talking about going back to the beginning of the kings and queens in England, the UK. The family I'm referring to is her bloodline. As a matter of fact, when her grandfather, George V, began the First World War, just before he began the First World War, their German family, Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, in actual fact, all of the royal houses of Europe are wrapped up in this one bloodline now, thanks to Queen Victoria, the grandmother of Europe, as she's called. Yes, they're all connected. And Windsor Castle, George V took the name Windsor and got rid of the Germanic name so as there would be no conflict when the family dispute erupted. Known to the world as World War I. More on this when I return. Home sweet home to the Royals, Windsor Castle, Talk Radio AM 640. I'm Space. Emails to space@640toronto.com or spaceman@640toronto.com. Thanks for the one you sent me. Dion writes, I know there is no official reason that's been put out there on why the Temple of Baal was scratched and replaced by the Arch of Triumph of Rome from Palmyra instead. But what do you think was the reason? Well, here's what I believe. I believe there's a war going on right now for religion in America. Right now we have a Supreme Court of the United States has 2 Jewish people and 6 Roman Catholic judges. And I believe that's about to change with the new president that's coming in, and we will see a very telltale sign of America slipping away from Christianity. I believe that there were some powerful Christians that still have a grip on America that nixed this Temple of Baal and instead allowed the setup of the Arch of Triumph of Rome instead, because it doesn't have the word Baal in it, which is the child sacrifice god of the ancients. But I believe it was more of a religious fight that is at the bottom of it. Because think about this for a moment. When this was all going on, they were going to set up the Temple of Baal in New York City at Times Square. There was immediately the North Carolina change of law with bathrooms for just men and women, and not allowing the LGBT community any way at all to have their own bathroom or to have their own distinction of going to the bathroom. It was all about that, I believe. North Carolina passes the law because, you see, that is the edge of the Bible Belt. They attacked the Bible Belt heavily. North Carolina was chosen. Look at the cancellations of all of the rock stars that are controlled by the Illuminati that said, I'm not playing there until you change your law for the LGBT community and strike down that new law that gives them no privilege to go to their own bathroom of choice. Bryan Adams, Bruce Springsteen, Ringo Starr, Boston, Pearl Jam, all these bands have canceled their act. The reason being because of this new LGBT law in North Carolina. Also, if you go into the business, Deutsche Bank, that huge German bank, canceled a planned expansion of its operation in Cary, North Carolina. It's not going through it now. And PayPal also canceled plans for a new global payment center in Charlotte, North Carolina. And Cirque du Soleil also canceled its 2 stops on its tour in Greensboro and Charlotte. That is what this whole thing is really about, this Temple of Baal. I believe that was stopped in its tracks, but the power wasn't enough to stop the Arch of Triumph of Rome from being set up. That's coming in November of this year to New York City. And by the way, the Arch of Triumph of Rome set up in Trafalgar Square will only be there for 3 days, the royal number. So that's what I really believe has been going on and why it was changed from the Temple of Baal. They'll be back with that, believe me. It's coming. Especially the Temple of Baal being at this time of year in cities around the world and talked about. The Feast of the Beast, all for Moloch, Baal, child sacrifice in the spring. So, the permanent home of England, royal family, the Windsors. That's why their favorite castle is Windsor, as I explained before the break. Queen Elizabeth has her lineage in William the Conqueror, sometimes even called William the Bastard, by the way. He was the first Norman King of England, the first foreigner to reign England from 1066 until his death in 1087. He was the descendant of Viking raiders, the tribe of Cain. He had been Duke of Normandy, located in what's now France, since 1035. And after many long battles to establish his power, by 1060, William the Conqueror, who not only was the first foreign king of England, but also began the Bank of England. His hold on Normandy by 1060 was secure, so he then launches a Norman attack on England in 1066 and wins. Windsor Castle is well known for its long association with English and later British royal families, and for its architecture, because that same family has been abiding there since 1066. Windsor Castle, well known for its architecture, and the original Windsor Castle, built in the 11th century after the Norman invasion of England by William the Conqueror, of course. It was his first home after conquering England. This is why it meant so much to the Queen and all of her relatives in the past. And, of course, her controllers, the Druids. Since the time of Henry I, the son of, yes, William the Conqueror. It's been used by all monarchs and is the longest occupied palace in all of Europe, all time. More on William the Conqueror tweaking religion when I return on Talk Radio M640. It's the Spaceman. This is AVFS. I'm the guy to call Space. It's a View from Space on Talk Radio AM640. Emails to space@640toronto.com or spaceman@640toronto.com. They are really filling the inbox up tonight. I got to tell you that right now. I'll get to a few of them just a little bit later. But right now I'm talking about William the Conqueror building a castle in England where the Queen calls home sweet home. William the Conqueror, the first foreign king, a Norman, a descendant of the Vikings, ruled England, started the Bank of England, and perpetuated the entire bloodline of the Kane bloodline. Silver streak that runs all the way through the royal families of England. And the Queen, of course, since the time of Henry I, is just one of the royals that has been using Windsor Castle as their home base. It's been used by all of the monarchs. As I said before the break, it's the longest occupied palace in all of Europe. William the Conqueror also tweaked the Christian religion from what it originally was in England. And I've told you over and over on this show that they have tweaked the King James Version of the Bible many times and has evolved, changed it over the years, over history, and soon it will be made illegal as it goes closer and closer to paganism. Now, this religion, Christianity, is still changing. Look what Pope Francis is doing. You see, tweaking all religions in the whole world today is a job that the Illuminati are doing behind closed doors, behind the curtain. If you look closely, they're melding all of the world's religions ever closer and closer together. William the Conqueror, when he took over England, mixed in the ancient occult Norse religion, which, of course, was welcomed with open arms by the Druids. That is their precepts, maybe some different names, but all of the belief system is still there, the same. William the Conqueror had 3 sons, whom all fought each other viciously for power. The immediate consequence of William's death was a war between his sons Robert and William over control of all England, and his youngest brother Henry as king. And what did we see at the beginning of this week? 2 royal brothers, princes, fighting with lightsabers, viciously fighting one another at play. But evoking William the Conqueror, evoking Windsor Castle, evoking the tweaking of Christianity. Yes, William's death in 1100 A.D. and the succession of his youngest brother Henry as king. Normandy and England stayed contested in 1106. It was the gate of King Henry III, by the way, that Queen Elizabeth chose to exit Windsor Castle to meet the public for her walkabout on her birthday. That was televised all over the world on the Illuminati-controlled mass media. Now you know why the week started with 2 brothers of the same elite, powerful bloodline fighting albeit with lightsabers, at the start of this occult Feast of the Beast Royal Week. It's the Illuminati once again repeating history with the royal brothers fighting once again. Like I often say, there's nothing new under the sun. It's simply history repeating itself. The celebration of the Queen's 90th birthday took up the whole morning on Thursday of the royal number 3 evoked here, April 21st day. It had a huge royal connection. Then, in the afternoon, the word prince was empowered to an even higher profile in the Illuminati-controlled mass media, and it was reported the sudden, unseemingly unexplainable death of another rock star that took over the rest of the day as the royal connotation was carried through the entire day into the evening hours on this third day into the Feast of the Beast ritual that began the 13-day sacrifice ritual on the day of the arrival of the Arch of Triumph of Rome to London's Trafalgar Square on Tuesday. Tuesday, named after the Norse god of war, by the way, and sky. Tuesday. Q-day. Tweesdag in German. Or Q-day. Later changed to Tuesday as you know it. Then on Thursday, again, the Norse god Thor evoked here. Thor's Day is actually named after the god Thor, the hammer-wielding god associated with thunder, lightning, storms, oak trees, strength, the protection of mankind, and also hallowing, also healing, also fertility. That day, Thor's Day, the hammer day of the Norse god, was the death of a rock star and the birthday of a queen. The rock star, the one who was called Prince. He was the main focus of the blood sacrifice victims in this ongoing ritual to promote the Feast of the Beast. Remember, the Illuminati must have public sacrifices, made in public, done in public, with many to witness. Therefore, taking part in the ceremony. That's the real reason why all of this is being shot around the world on the Illuminati-controlled mass media. For your participation in the blood sacrifice rituals. There were the other blood sacrifice victims also on the same day, the Thursday, the day of the Queen's 90th birthday, and the dead prince. You know what I'm talking about? It was the mass killing in a rural area in Ohio. There was a string of shootings involving 4 scenes, 4 homes, where a gunman or gunmen, who knows, they still say they're at large, running around somewhere with no leads whatsoever, and it doesn't even look like they're trying to find anyone. This was another blood sacrifice of the highest order. A string of shootings, 4 homes, where these men or man killed a total of 8 family members in southern Ohio on Friday. The 8 relatives, 7 adults, and a 16-year-old boy, shot in the head, execution style, we're told. 8, of course, is the sun worshippers number, and as well, the time of day for the death of Prince, stated to be 10:07 a.m. Another hidden 8, the sun worshippers number. The Ohio Attorney General, Mike DeWine, made this very eerie statement. DeWine said that the family's last name that was wiped out was Roden, but he didn't give any first names of the families, just the last name because it was that important. Why? He also said this very eerie statement. If I was a member of that family, I would be extra cautious right now. I knew he was, sending a message. An occult message that the uninitiated would never understand. I researched the last name Roden to find out the origin. Mind if I share it with you? Roden means Red Valley. Edom is red. You know the red band around the wrist? The twins. Edom is that bloodline that is choking the world. And the stars of Hollywood wear this red string around their wrist. Red is the color of Edom. And if you research the last name Roden, find the origin, it plays right into what I've been telling you is really happening in the world. Not this illusional gobbledygook bunch of lies that the Illuminati-controlled mass media are talking to you about. When you see these events, like 8 relatives, 7 adults, and a 16-year-old boy, shot execution style, you're attending a ritual. And it has to be done in public, or the Illuminati will not be rewarded by their god, the satanic force. The Feast of the Beast continues. It's here till May 1st. I'm the Spaceman. More next on Talk Radio AM 640. I'm the guy that calls Space. You can email me, spaceman at 640toronto.com or space at 640toronto.com. And I communicate by email only. And thank you so much for the one that you've sent. And I will get to a few of them deeper into this hour. Now, the name Roden, that has to do with the family, the 8 family members, 7 adults, a 16-year-old boy that were killed in Ohio on Friday. Another hidden 8, by the way, the Sun Worshippers number, as was the death of Prince's stated time of death, 10:07 and 8. The Ohio Attorney General, Mike DeWine, had a very eerie statement when he said, if I was a member of that family, I would be extra cautious right now. The family's last name was Roden. He gave no first names of any of the victims at all. Just the name Roden, in a message that clearly pointed out, pay attention to this name Roden. So I did a little research. It means Red Valley. Roden came to England. That name came to England first, after the Norman conquest in 1066. What I just told you about last hour. The Roden family originated in Lincolnshire at a town called Rhodes, which is the origin of that name. And so this mass killing in Ohio yesterday was a part of the Feast of the Beast 13-day ritual that starts on April 19th and ends May 1st. Child sacrifice. This event supplied the children for the ritual, because the Feast of the Beast calls for child sacrifice. There's only this 13-day window for the sacrifice that ends, as I said, May 1. May Day. Another holiday given to us by the Illuminati. No wonder the children are seen in the rituals on May Day to be happy, singing and dancing around a maypole. They survived the child sacrifice window of time. That's why they're so happy. And, of course, the maypole is a phallic symbol, and the ribbons that stretch from it onto the end of the children is the sperm that comes out and creates the child at the end of the string of sperm. Well, in this Ohio mass shooting, at least 3 young children actually survived. Yes, the royal number, possibly spared by the occultists as a gift, commemorating maybe the Queen's birthday. One was only 4 days old. One was 6 months old. And the third was 3. Pike County Sheriff Charles Reeder said the youngest baby, the 4-day-old baby, was found in bed next to the child's dead mom. Just let me finish this with this whole ritual in Ohio for the Feast of the Beast sacrifice, that a gun is a representative of fire. So it was actually the correct ritual put in place for these deaths on this Friday past. So back to the dead rock star. Prince, who was a mind-controlled monarch butterfly. That's code for a mind control victim of the elites, as all stars are. They live in a world of illusion. They're told things that aren't true. They're given a power, but the words are put into their mouths for them to tell people, like Leonardo DiCaprio must commit to climate change, or he cannot hold his position. And he reaches the highest pinnacle of speaking to the United Nations. He's just an actor. No, he's a mouthpiece for the elites, espousing their view. While Prince had been famous for nearly 4 decades, there was a lot more than a little of an air of mystery around him. He lived behind the gates of Paisley Park, the sprawling estate, 65,000 square foot studio complex in the Minneapolis suburb of Chanhassen, about a 45-minute drive from the state capital, Minneapolis-St. Paul, in Minnesota. And why events held there carried a strict no cell phone policy. Even reporters who interviewed him were instructed at Paisley Park not to bring a camera, a mobile phone, or any kind of recording device. He was a control freak. He wanted no part of himself, no part of his body, no part of his image to get out to anyone. Because you see, when you're in the occult, deep as he was, and those stars are, they realize that if someone has a lock of hair, a little piece of clothing, a little something from that purpose, a voodoo ritual can be built around it to harm them greatly. That was the real reason Prince Rogers Nelson was such a control freak. More. And I mean more. Much more. When I return on Talk Radio AM 640 on Prince. On AVFS. I'm the guy that calls space. It's a view from space. Talk Radio AM 640. Emails to spaceman@640toronto.com or space@640toronto.com. It's the only way I communicate. And thanks for the ones that you have sent. I really appreciate them, and my inbox is peaking right now. I will get to them. So, back to this Prince. This word Prince, all through this week, heavily saturated in the Illuminati-controlled mass media, as it was started with the two princes lightsaber fighting at the beginning of the week. Then Obama being stood up by a king sent only to be welcomed to Saudi Arabia by a low-ranking prince, the governor of Riyadh, as the King Salman, welcomed his Gulf partners instead at another area in the airport. A for sure fire snubbing of the American president. Because the Saudis are publicly not happy with what's going on with their wealth, because it's all based on oil, of course, and oil is heading south. They're now having to go and borrow money. Yes, the Saudis are taking out loans. And I believe that the minions that travel with the President of the United States got together with the Saudi minion men, the bean counters, the behind-the-scenes people we know nothing of, never see, never hear of. They were quietly discussing the sale of Saudi Aramco, the most lucrative company in the entire world, bar none. It is the most lucrative company. Forget Apple, forget Google, forget Microsoft. It's Saudi Aramco. It's worth over $1 trillion. U.S. The Saudis may have to sell. They now own 100%. Saudi Aramco was actually started by SouthCal, Southern California Oil Company, and Standard, which is now Exxon. Controlled back then by Prescott Bush, by the way, the grandfather of George W., the father of Herbert Walker Bush. Yes, trouble is coming big time to Saudi Arabia. Then the prince chauffeurs around Obama. Yes, Prince Philip, the Queen's consort, was driving the car that drove Obama to Windsor Castle to meet with the Queen. And the Queen was along for the car ride, too. I'll talk about that a little deeper into tonight's show. They're family. They are family members. It's quite extraordinary of how the Illuminati-controlled mass media played up how cordial, how low-key with the protocol that this meeting was this week. It was almost, well, it was family getting together again. So back to Prince Paisley Park. The mind-controlled monarch butterfly, programmed by the elites, the rock star Prince. His name really was Prince Rogers Nelson, to be exact. His dad, jazz pianist, songwriter too, who went by the stage name Prince also, Prince Rogers. He gave his name to his son because he said, I wanted him to do everything I wanted to do. That's according to a quote in the 2003 published book called Possessed, The Rise and Fall of Prince. He was possessed, all right. The Illuminati-controlled octopus of show business had him wrapped up totally. When he was 30, he fought about it, too. He fought them. When he was 37, he married a 22-year-old backup singer and dancer. Her name was Nate Garcia. Married her on Valentine's Day in 1996. They had a son. Yeah, Prince was married for a time, had a son. He named Gregory, Boy Gregory. The son was named Boy Gregory. On October 16th, 1996, he was born with what they call Pfeiffer syndrome. Died a week later. Prince and Nati divorced in 1999. Nati Garcia. In 2001, Prince marries again, this time to Manuela Testolini in a private ceremony. They divorce May of 2006. The story goes Prince attended meetings at a local Kingdom Hall, too. Jehovah's Witnesses, occasionally knocking on people's doors to discuss his faith, we're told. Well, news of Prince's conversion first circulated in 2001. And you know what? It wasn't real. It was the Illuminati-controlled mass media that propagated that tall tale. The Associated Press was the culprit. They were the first large outlet to actually report it, apparently based off of an interview Prince gave to Gotham magazine. But like myself, and maybe you too, seem to have a hard time believing the man who wrote songs like Jack You Off, Sexy MF, Mother, now a devout Jehovah's Witness? He wasn't truly a Jehovah's Witness at all. It was only one visit, one time. One time he knocked on doors, and it was published all over the place. You know who it was? The door he knocked on. The story goes like this. The date was October 5th, 2003. A couple in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. And by the way, there's a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses in Minnesota. Well, they opened their door at 2 o'clock to find Prince standing on the doorstep with the Jehovah's Witness Bible that's been tweaked in his hand. Needless to say, they were shocked. Compounding their surprise, they being Jewish, and it was Yom Kippur. Prince's conversion, this so-called conversion to the Jehovah's Witness religion, actually started in a roundabout way. It came off of a 2-year-long debate, from what I understand, with a friend named Larry Graham, who used to play bass for Sly and the Family Stone. After he left Sly Stone, Larry Graham started his own funk group, his own band called Graham Central Station. Prince said that he didn't consider it a conversion to Jehovah's Witnesses, but a realization, more like a realization. And he framed it like this. It's like Morpheus and Neo in the Matrix, he explained. Now, the Jehovah's Witnesses are directed by the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses, a group of elders in Brooklyn, New York, which establishes all doctrines based on its interpretations of the Bible. They prefer, by the way, to use their own translation of the Bible. They call it the New World Translation, which sometimes translates key passages, such as those about the nature of Jesus Christ, differently than other Bible translations. For instance, they believe that the destruction of this present world system at Armageddon is imminent, and that the establishment of God's kingdom will be done over the earth and will be the only solution for all problems faced by humanity. Now, that could easily mean that they're going to back the satanic Antichrist, and his one world government quite easily fits into that scenario. Jehovah's Witnesses also reject the doctrine of the Trinity and the existence of hell. They also have stronger apocalyptic expectations than most Christians. Jehovah's Witnesses disagree with the mainstream Christian belief that Jesus was fully God, fully man. Jehovah's Witnesses also teach that Jesus was not God, but rather God's first creation. Jesus existed in pre-human form, they believe, as God's agent of creation and God's chief spokesman. The Word, you see, and took on human form as the man Jesus by means of a virgin birth. The purpose of Jesus' incarnation on earth, according to the Jehovah's Witnesses, was threefold. 1, teach the truth about God. 2, provide a model of perfect life for people to follow. 3, to sacrifice his life to set humans free from sin and death. His crucifixion was not on a cross, but on a single upright stake. See, there were no crosses in those early times. They were just stakes, men impaled upon large timbers like spears. And they were left along the roadway, many of them, in the cities, going into the walled cities of the ancient world. As a reminder, don't play around with the authority here. You'll end up on a stake like these people. You talk about fear as the controller, as they have today, but just threatening you with terrorist attacks, bombings on airplanes. They actually, in those ancient times, this group that is running our world today, their belief system is putting people on, impaling them on stakes along the roadway for your edification. So a belief that is also unique to Jehovah's Witnesses. God raises Jesus from the dead as the spirit creature and returns to his home in heaven. Of course, the Christians believe that. But this is unique to Jehovah's Witnesses. And it's that the eschatological events predicted in Revelation actually began in the year 1914. This is when God gave Jesus his kingdom, and Jesus had been ruling from heaven ever since. At this time, Jesus threw Satan and his demons out of heaven and down here to earth, which is why, according to witnesses, Jehovah's Witnesses, the world has been getting progressively worse since 1914. Well, why the year 1914, you might ask? What's so special about the year 1914? Well, this is the year that saw the beginning of what became known as World War I. Remember, I repeatedly say on AVFS, on Talk Radio AM 640, that there will be 3 world wars used to set up the last, the final empire that will be ruled on this earth by one man, the high priest, who will become possessed by the satanic spirit itself to rule over all mankind on earth. It's the Illuminati creating their heaven right here on earth. More next on Talk Radio AM 640. I'm Space. This is AVFS. I'm the guy to call Space. It's just a view from space. That's all it is on Talk Radio AM 640. I communicate by email, spaceman@640toronto.com, one address, the other space@640toronto.com, and I'm sure glad I got a couple of inboxes tonight. Keep track of just a few of the rush, the flood I've got tonight, and I thank you so much for it. I really appreciate it. SB writes, Space, with all these numbers and rituals and key players, it all sounds like the world is just one giant playground. The life we live is just part of the overall game. And we are just game pieces that come and go, almost like a video game, with more power and higher levels and more things discovered as the game goes on. I sit and wonder what purpose we all have in this big game. Maybe there is some truth that this is just one big holographic existence. Signed, SB. No. You're here to make a decision and make a statement. And you're here for purposes. Each and every single person here has a purpose, or would not be here. It is a spiritual fight that is being fought on this third dimensional level. And that evokes a Shakespeare quote, that email. And he is right about all of us just bit players. As Shakespeare wrote, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. At first, the infant, mewing and puking in the nurse's arms. Well, there it is. That is what they want you to believe, that all the world is a stage and you're just merely player. No, you have a greater purpose. But Shakespeare, and you know why they teach Shakespeare and have for so long? Because Shakespeare is literally laced with occult black magic and the power of the occult. Witchcraft. It's a way to teach the new religion, which is really an old religion that is going to replace Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, as will be outlawed because of all the wars and troubles that it has caused the world, and will be blamed for them all, those 3 monotheistic religions. Lucifer, Luciferian religion, is here already. They just can't do it outright in the open just yet. But they are doing it. But it's not really overt as they want it to be. And it will be. And soon. So as I said, the Jehovah's Witnesses actually subscribe to that kind of a world. Of this one world government, this new world order with an Antichrist. Only they may be believing that he is the good Christ to come. That's come to save the planet. Yes, the unique belief of the Jehovah's Witnesses, as Prince was purported to be, but not really. I'll get to that in a moment, about his Matrix comments. But 1914 is when the Jehovah's Witnesses believe that these events began that are recorded in Revelation. Because 1914, you see, was the First World War that created the League of Nations. At first, just 24 nations joining, saying that we have to get together, we have to meet, because this can never happen again. Such a horrible, abhorrent catastrophe as World War I was. It can't ever happen again. But World War I actually set up World War II. And happened shortly after even. It will take 3 wars to convince the world that the religions must go that are causing all of the problems, and the new religion will be formed. And borders cause problems. Everywhere you look, it's a border problem now. From the refugees to trade barriers to joining the EU or opting out, Brexit. It's all borders. They want to make borders a problem so that we'll want to get rid of them. That's how it's done. All the world is a stage. And this, of course, also evoked in the Illuminati-controlled mass media this feast of the Beast kickoff of 13 days this week. On the 400th anniversary of Shakespeare. You've seen it? And they get people like Barack Obama, the President of the United States, one of the most powerful men in the world, supposedly, going to the Globe Theatre in London, the home of Shakespeare, and taking questions from kids, where he makes the "don't be cynical" comments. In other words, stay brainwashed and just keep going along with us, because we know what we want to do. And we got a part for you if you're willing. But if you're not, you're out. Pact with the devil. Like stars have to make. Read the lyrics sometimes to Welcome to the Jungle by that famous Axl Rose. And I have to tell you that really says you have to do a deal in order to become a star. It's right there in the song, Welcome to the Jungle. I'm the Spaceman, Talk Radio, AM 640. More next. I'm going to got to call Space. It's a view from space. Talk Radio, AM 640. Emails to spaceman at 640toronto.com or space at 640toronto.com. Yes, Prince was a monarch butterfly. Someone controlled by the elites. And you've got to do a deal. You can't just have talent. It's not enough. You've got to be theirs. Welcome to the jungle. Yeah. We've got your fun and games. We've got everything you want. Honey, we know the names. You know what they mean by that? They know the demonic entities that can get you a crowd, that can get you fame and fortune. We are the people that can find whatever you may need. If you got the money, honey, we got your disease. Welcome to the jungle. Watch it bring you to your knees. Gotta repeat that. Knees. I want to watch you bleed. Welcome to the jungle. We take it day by day. If you want it, you're gonna bleed. But that's the price you pay. And you're a very sexy girl. That's very hard to please. You can taste the bright lights, but you won't get them for free in the jungle. Welcome to the jungle. Feel my serpentine. I want to hear you scream. You gotta learn to live like an animal in the jungle where we play. If you got a hunger for what you see, you'll take it eventually. You can have anything you want, but you better not take it from me. And when you're high, you never, ever, ever want to come down. That means when you're successful, everything's going well. But there's a price to pay. It comes at the end. And they take you anytime they want to. Example? Prince, April 21st. Feast of the Beast. Blood sacrifice. On the day of the Queen's 90th birthday. Yes, the New World Order is that way too. It's a theocracy. This coming global entity. This last empire the world will ever see. That final empire that will be ruled by the man, the high priest, who will become possessed by the satanic spirit itself to rule over all mankind. You see, that's why Jehovah's Witnesses look forward to a theocracy in which all human governments are abolished and God rules the entire earth himself. But just who is this God? Lucifer. And this is expected, according to the Jehovah's Witnesses, to occur soon. Just exactly what is a theocracy? It's the New World Order. A theocracy is a system of government in which priests rule in the name of God, or a God rules. That's the New World Order. That's the New World Order's religion. Man is God. I mean, after all, the religion was founded by Charles Taze Russell, the Jehovah's Witnesses. Also, he's the founder of the Church of the Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, who are sun worshippers. So the man Prince really meant, when he made the statement, what he really meant when he made the statement that it wasn't really a conversion to Jehovah's Witnesses, but a realization that he had come to. When he described his religious ideas, like that of Morpheus and Neo in The Matrix, that's how he portrayed it. That's how he framed it. Prince was also a vegetarian. In fact, the liner notes for his album Rave Unto, The Joy Fantastic, featured a message about the cruelty involved in wool production for wool sweaters and things, what to do with the sheep. I also believe that Prince was deeply into the occult, as I've already stated, and have shown evidence for. A member of the elite, brainwashing the masses with his sex magic music. The Illuminati worship of phallus. That's what he was selling. As in Osiris, the ancient Egyptian mystery religion's sun god. The all-seeing eye. Huge part of Prince's on-stage musical act. The obelisk, of course, is the phallic symbol, that being brainwashed into all the world through the obelisks. And what did he call his all-female band? Third Eye Girl. The eye of Horus in the ancient Egyptian mystery religion. The third eye is the pineal gland. The pineal gland is the true master gland. The initiates believe, the cultist believes, is situated between the eyes, in the middle of the brain. It's the organ of clairvoyance. It's the third eye. The eye of Ra, or Heru, meaning God, the sun god. Biblical Jacob saw God's face to face on the island of Peniel. It's said. Its secretions. The pineal gland secretes melatonin, which is an anti-aging type of secretion that affects the age. And it's also an antioxidant. It also secretes melanin, which colors your skin. The pineal gland, the most enigmatic of endocrine organs, has long been the interest of the occultist. Several millennia ago, it was thought to be a valve that controlled the flow of memories into consciousness. This is what so often Prince portrayed in his images, that eye. René Descartes, the 17th century French philosopher, mathematician, concluded that the pineal gland was the seat of the soul. A corollary notion that was, that had calcification of the pineal gland, causing psychiatric diseases. A concept that provided support for those who considered psychotic behavior to be rampant. Modern examination techniques have revealed that all pineal glands become more or less calcified after time. The pineal gland corresponds with divine thought. After being touched by the vibrating light of Kundalini, Kundalini starts its ascent in the human body towards the head center after responding to the vibrations from the light in the head field. Astral travel comes from that, and other occult superpowers when activated. This pineal gland becomes the line of communication with the higher planes, the spirit world. The crown chakra, the occultists believe, reaches down until its vortex touches the pineal gland. Prana, or pure energy as it's called, is received through the energy center in the head. With practice, the vibration level of the astral body is then raised, allowing it to separate from the physical abilities, closely associated with the development of the light in the head phenomenon. Unknowingly for a time, Prince, the musician, was totally brainwashed, fooled into thinking he was in control of his life. But then, through Larry Graham, conversations he had with him, the Jehovah's Witnesses, and the way they indoctrinate people, saw the same idea of mind control there. What Prince did, he actually discovered the Matrix was actually in control of him in his real life. And it was then he decided he would try to escape the grip of this cult he was involved deeply in and take back control of his life. In other words, the pact made with the devil, wiggle out of it. But as another rock band found out and wrote in a song, you just can't leave once you've joined. The Eagles put it this way. See, it's a slow seduction. The line, Glenn Frey, Don Henley, you can check out, but you can never leave. Well, you can take time off. Walk away for a bit. But the time that comes to pay your bill, you will pay. Just as people like Whitney Houston found out. As well as her heir to all of her millions, her daughter. You can't take any of it for your own. The Matrix system made them stars, and the Matrix system will dispose of you when it's your time. Rest in peace, Prince. I'm Space, back with more. Flip side of this break on Talk Radio AM 640. It's AVFS. I'm a Spaceman. It's a View from Space on Talk Radio AM 640. I communicate only one way. It's by email. I have no Facebook, no website. I have no Twitter account. I have no web presence whatsoever. I don't even have a cell phone. It's by email only at space640toronto.com or spaceman at 640toronto.com. S writes, Space, do you believe that the elites actually will fully come out and present to us the true gods they worship? Or have they already given us our new religion? That being the religion of secular humanism, materialism, the worship of the self. Because as you know, the selfie is about everything today. And just continue to tease us with their occult nonsense. No S, not at all, because what they're doing with the religion of secular humanism, materialism, the worship of the self, is that there is one coming that is going to declare himself God, man is God. And he will demand all worship him, or you cannot be in the system. You won't be able to log on. And all buying and selling will be done on the internet. Your password won't work. You'll shut out. No, there is one coming who is going to declare himself God. One man who will be, I believe, possessed by the satanic entity. So, this humanist materialism, secularism, is just a way to get to man as God. Setting first up man, and then picking one man to come along to rule all, and demand to be called your God. So I believe when Prince, who was a god, actually wanted to take over his life, get his control back, that's when he discovered that the Matrix was actually in control of him, and he was not in control of his life and his career. So that's when he decided he would try to escape the grip of the cult he was deeply involved in and take back control of his life. As I said, the Eagles put it one way: you can check out, but you can never leave. Whitney Houston found out. She tried to leave, start up her own company, pull all of her money out, get rid of the Matrix that made her the star. No, the system makes them stars. It doesn't matter about your talent. They don't need talent. As you can see, there are many superstars that have no talent. But it's the machine, the star-making machine, that can make them great with their image plastered everywhere. Kardashians is a perfect example. That's a bloodline that is being rewarded. The Matrix system makes them stars, and the Matrix system disposes of you when it's your time. Because there comes a time in people's careers in show business when they are worth more to the octopus that controls them dead than alive. That's why many young stars are taken out of this world. They're more useful dead. The Matrix is the world system of power used by the Illuminati to send messages and to ultimately control the masses through mind control. Prince was one of those that was used for mind control, sex magic. I believe Prince had a revelation of this, saw clearly how he was enslaved, as all of us really are. And when he saw he was trapped, he did what anyone that had the means to do something about it, to do something, to try and take it back. Take back the power from the mighty Matrix, the record companies, corporate laws, the contracts. And he failed. Remember, you can check out for a while, but you can never leave. And when they're done with you, they're done with you. Prince was used as a blood sacrifice exactly 3 days into the Feast of the Beast High Witching holiday that culminates with May Day, the 1st of May, which is celebrated around the world as some kind of a special holiday too. The blood sacrifice of Prince took place on the eve of what's known as the pink moon, the full moon that happened April 22nd, a few hours after he died. And the Queen celebrated her 90th birthday. That's the most ultra-important full moon of the witching world, all of them. It's believed to be so potent and so full of power of the pink moon that it's the one full moon that actually decides the date of Easter every year for billions the world over. How's that for a powerful orb? The pink moon. As you know, if you're a regular listener to AVFS on Talk Radio AM 640, you'll know that in 325 after Christ, the Council of Nicaea established that Easter would be held on the first Sunday after the first full moon occurring on or just after the vernal equinox. The one that's shining out there now, tonight, is that pink moon, that waning now full moon of 24 hours. I'm the Spaceman, back with more right after this break on Talk Radio AM 640. I'm the guy that calls space. It's View from Space, Talk Radio AM 640. Emails to space at 640toronto.com or spaceman at 640toronto.com. And thank you so much for the one that you've sent. So, the man Prince, when he made the statement about being a Jehovah's Witness, it wasn't really a conversion, but a realization that he had come to when he described his religion ideas like that of Morpheus and Neo in the Matrix. Well, let me just say this. There's an extra excerpt of the script that I have here in my hands from the movie The Matrix, released in the year 1999, by the way, one of Prince's famous tunes. That really describes what Prince meant when he made that statement. It wasn't a conversion to the Jehovah's Witnesses, but was really merely a realization that he had come to. Morpheus, in the movie The Matrix, is the ancient Greek god of dreams in real life. Well, in mythology. The illusion. Morpheus is the god of illusion. In the Matrix films, Morpheus is the character who plays the captain of the Nebuchadnezzar, which is a hovercraft of the human forces of the last human city, Zion. In a devastated world where most humans are grown by sentient machines and kept imprisoned in the Matrix, a virtual computer-generated world, as what is being formed and built around us today. Neo, in the movie The Matrix, is you and I, the slaves of the system. Do you know the best way to keep a slave? It's to make them think they're free. We call the West the free world, but we're not free at all. We're, most of us, in debt, which means we're beholding to our creditor, not free. You don't have all the time to yourself. You just have a little bit of time in the weekend occasionally. That's not freedom. But if you can make a slave think he's free through brainwashing, you've got the perfect system. It's the Matrix. Here's how the script from the Matrix goes, to give you a little better idea of what Prince meant when he said it was a realization, not a conversion to Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses believe that there is a one-world government coming, that there is going to be a priest who will run it in the name of God. I take it one step further and say it's a man who's going to call himself God and demand to be worshipped. Lucifer will possess him. Here's how the script in the Matrix goes. Morpheus says, I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice. tumbling down the rabbit hole? Neo replies, you could say that. Morpheus says, I see it in your eyes. You have the look of a man who accepts what he sees because he is expected to wake up. Ironically, that's not far from the truth. Do you believe in fate, Neo? Neo answers no. Let me just go back for a moment what Morpheus says. You have the look of a man who accepts what he sees because he is expecting to wake up. Accepting what we see is what we're all doing. We accept everything we're told and shown. Now, some people are beginning to, because of shows like this, pick holes in the Illuminati-controlled mass media and show you how errant they are, how illusional they can be. But a lot of people are still accepting what they see. So, when Morpheus asks Neo if he believes in fate, because that's what you're saying when you accept things, it's supposed to happen to us this way, I'll just let it happen. Do you believe in fate? Neo says no. Morpheus says, why not? Neo replies, because I don't like the idea that I'm not in control of my life. Prince. Morpheus says, I know exactly what you mean. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's nothing wrong with the world. But you think there is something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. Do you know what I'm talking about? Neo says, the Matrix. Morpheus says, do you know what that is? Do you want to know what that is? Neo says, yeah. Morpheus says, the Matrix is everywhere. It's all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. In other words, it's the illusion that I talk about on the Illuminati-controlled mass media. The lies. Neo says, what truth? Because Morpheus has said, it is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. So Neo wants to know what the truth is now. Morpheus says that you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, into a prison that you cannot taste or see or touch. A prison for your mind. Mind control, you see. You're programmed to react the way you react. To have the correct, like right now, the LGBT law in North Carolina. A prison for your mind, mind controlled. If you don't think this way, we're going to have to punish you. Because you're not thinking politically correct. You can't have your own view. You have to accept the world view. That's the prison for your mind. That's exactly the reason why, just a couple of days after Prince announced that he would release his newest album, Hit and Run, exclusively to Tidal on September 7th, 2015. That would make it a 9-day, by the way, September 9th. Satan's favorite number. Prince revealed the reason he was sidestepping a record label and offering his new music directly through Jay-Z's streaming service, Tidal. Prince said, and I quote, "Record contracts are just like, I'm going to say the word, slavery. I would tell any young artist, don't sign." His rebellious split goes back to the year 1993 for Prince. A legal battle erupted between Warner. Warner Brothers, by the way, is a division of Time Warner, the largest communications corporation in the world. It's part of the firm, if you caught the front of the show. And Prince fought Warner Brothers over the artistic and financial control of his musical output. During the lawsuit, he actually appeared in public with the word slave written on his cheek. Prince explained his name change this way: "The first step I have taken toward the ultimate goal of emancipation from the chains that bind me to Warner was to change my name from Prince to the love symbol. Prince is the name that my mother gave me at birth. Warner Brothers took that name, trademarked it, used it as the main marketing tool to promote all of the music that I wrote. The company owns the name Prince and all related music marketed under Prince. I became merely a pawn, used to produce more money for Warner. I was born Prince. I did not want to adopt another conventional name. The only acceptable replacement for my name and my identity was the love symbol, a symbol with no pronunciation. That is representation of me and what my music's about." The symbol was present in his work over the years. He says it's a concept that evolved from his frustration with the Matrix. He said, "It is who I am. It is my name." September 14, 2007, Prince announces he's going to use his lawyers, his battery of lawyers, and all of his money to sue YouTube and eBay because they hosted copyright material. He hires the international internet policing company, WebShare, by the way, to help him out. In October of that same year, 2007, Stephanie Lenz filed a lawsuit against Universal Music Publishing Group, claiming that they were abusing copyright laws after the music publisher had YouTube take down Lenz's home movie. You know why? The Prince song, Let's Go Crazy, was playing faintly in the background. Lawsuit. Anything you see that pertained to his body, his image, his music, anything. He believes, as an occultist, that someone can use it against him. And Warner has used it mightily against him. And these other people were bit users, yes, but they were using parts of him. Damage him. Also in November that year, 2007, a bunch of fan sites of Prince formed Prince Fans United to fight back against legal requests, which they claim Prince made to cease and desist all use of photographs, images, lyrics, album covers, anything linked to his likeness. Prince, he got fanatical. Prince's lawyers claimed that this constituted copyright infringement. Prince Fans United group said that the legal actions were attempts to stifle all critical commentary about Prince. A statement from Prince's promoter, AEG, said that the only offending items on the three fan sites were live shots from Prince's 21 nights in London at the O2 Arena earlier that year. There were more lawsuits, too. NPG was his company after he ejected Warner from his life for a time. but he'd be back. More on this when I return on Talk Radio, AM 640. It's the Spaceman. And this is AVFS. I'm the Spaceman. It's Talk Radio, AM 640. It's a view from space. Emails to space@640toronto.com or spaceman@640toronto.com. Thank you so much for the one that you sent. I'm talking about Prince right now and his lawsuits and his attempt to take back his life from the Matrix, as he once said, compared it to NPG Records, the record label that was owned by Prince exclusively, short for New Power Generation, of course, founded to release his music after Paisley Park Records was shut down by Warner Brothers Records in 1993. He fought Warner from 1993 all the way up to 2014. I'm at 2007 right now. It was also reported that year that the satirical website Beta.com had pulled their Image Challenge of the Week, voted to Prince after legal threats from Prince himself under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. He used every and any way to gain control and gain back total, complete, hands-on control of his career and any of his image. But you see, as you and I would know, he didn't see it this way, it would be impossible. After the star-making machine made you that big, there's no way that you can corral it all and take it back. You can't, as they say, put the toothpaste back in the tube. But he had to try, because he felt, as an occultist, as a mind control victim, that people could lord over him, could do voodoo spells on him of anything that was of him. So he had to control anything and everything that had to do with Prince. At the 2008 Coachella Music Festival, Prince performed a cover of Radiohead's song, Creep. It wasn't even his. But immediately after he forced YouTube and other websites to remove footage that fans had taken of the performance, despite Radiohead saying, hey, we demand that it stays on there, on the website, YouTube. 205 days later, YouTube reinstates the video as Radiohead claimed, it's our song, let people hear it. I don't care if it's Prince or someone else doing it. In 2009, Prince put the video of the Coachella performance on his official website, lotusflower.com. But all those lawsuits were to no avail, because in 2013, Prince signed a major deal and came back to Warner Brothers. That was just a little over 2.5 years ago. Now I'm catching you up with what's been going on in his life. The label he famously fell out of nearly 20 years before. In 1993, he started fighting them. 2013, he came back. The New Deal, which brought him back, would also supposedly, and I say that word, supposedly, allows him to regain ownership of master recordings made during his previous deal with Warner. In other words, all of the masters that Warner had in their control would eventually go to him. That was in the deal. To regain ownership. That was 2013, 2014. He never did get them back. Remember now, he was supposedly so bitter about the legal fight with Warner in 1993 that Prince called himself a slave, even wrote it on his face when appearing in public, and also changed his stage name to a symbol to try and stop the Matrix from controlling his life. Warner. When he finally gave in to re-sign with Warner in 2013, 2014, Prince said at the time that the New Deal would see a release of his classic album, Purple Rain, in time for the 30th anniversary. Well, and that all the master recordings made during his previous deal with Warner, he would regain ownership. Well, we all found out a couple of days ago, April 21st, he could check out, but he couldn't ever leave. You see the grip of the star-making machine, the Matrix, is too powerful. Prince was a blood sacrifice 3 days into the Feast of the Beast occult ritual in the dark world of the Illuminati. 3 days into the Feast of the Beast. Because he saw himself not as a slave, but as a prince. So they'll give him the royal number. 3 days into the Feast of the Beast, and we call in your number. Prince was a mind control victim, as all are in the world of entertainment. And you could really take it out of the realm of entertainment and even call us slaves. Victims of mind control, of, oh no, this is the way it's always been, you always have to have this. We always have to take over half of your income and give it to someone else. Taxes. We have to charge you for this and that. We have to keep you down. We can't have you all being highly educated. Only a few of us can. And we all accept, as a good slave would. No rebellion, no fighting, don't want to pay the price. We'd just rather think we're free. Space, back with more. Talk Radio, AM 640. Other side of this break. And I got to call Space. You can email me. Spaceman at 640toronto.com, one address. The other is space at 640toronto.com. Thank you so much for the one you sent. JL writes, hey, Space, people have a common misconception of what freedom is because they believe being a consumer is the representation of our free world. But people don't realize that we are only free to buy things. We're free to be consumers and nothing more. And for that, you have to have money. And then the Illuminati-controlled mass media comes on with all the shiny baubles for you to buy. And all the fancy baubles that go along with it. And sometimes even reducing the price to get you sucked into going, oh, I can afford it now. Or making it look so good, there's no chance you could ever afford it, saddling you into a huge debt, of which you will never be truly free. Gold is not the power of money. Debt is. And it's now moving into countries where they can take away the sovereignty of a country because of a debt. Debts owed to the creditor must be paid. Whitney Houston found that out. Michael Jackson found that out. Had the Beatle catalog. How'd that work out for Michael Jackson? Not so much. At the end, he was walking around charging things, not being able to pay the bills. And Sony ended up with the Beatle catalog, and Michael Jackson ended up dead. Whitney Houston decided to recuse herself from the record company, started her own company, was going to make a movie, put out some more music with her new formed company, died of an overdose in a bathtub. On the day of the Grammys. There's one more coming, you know. That Beatle catalog I just told you about. Someone else wants it now, you know. Because when the news broke that the Michael Jackson estate would sell its 50% of Sony ATV Music Publishing to Sony, $750 million deal, by the way, a lot of people wondered whether Paul McCartney would finally be able to acquire the rights to his share of the company's crown jewel, Sony ATV Music's Beatle catalog, the Lennon-McCartney catalog. Since it begins coming up for reversion, not next year, the year after, 2018. Yeah, reversion. Billboard has confirmed this to be a fact, that as of December 15, last year, 2015, Paul McCartney had already begun the process. So at some point during the 80s, heyday of McCartney's friendship with Jackson, remember they even did a song together, Black and White they called it? He pointed out the value of music publishing. Jackson soon received a tip that ATV Music, publisher of the Beatles' Lennon-McCartney songs, among a lot of others, was available and purchased it for $47.5 million. That was back in '85. Jackson bought that Beatle catalog. McCartney also wanted to own the Beatles catalog for a long time. He and Lennon lost out to ATV, Sony, in a 1969 attempt to purchase Northern Songs, their original publisher, and he never forgave Michael Jackson, we're told, for what he considered was a betrayal of their friendship because Michael Jackson ended up buying it from Sony, not McCartney or Lennon. And now, 2018, with this reversion coming up, the opportunity for McCartney is coming up again. I wonder if he'll make the bid. The U.S. Copyright Act of 1976 gave songwriters the ability to recapture the publisher's share of their songs. And in the case of titles written before 1978, writers can actually recapture songs after 2 consecutive 28-year terms. That works out to exactly 56 years. That legislation allows for writers of songs issued in or after 1978 to recapture their publishing after 35 years. The Lennon-McCartney catalog begins hitting the 56-year mark in 2018. So, in order to reclaim publishing ownership of a song, a songwriter has to file with the U.S. Copyright Office, terminating the publishing anywhere from 2 to 10 years before the 56-year elapse, in order to obtain ownership of that song's publishing in a timely manner. Now, if the writer doesn't put in a notice within that window, they have another 5-year period to reclaim the copyrights, but each day's delay adds another day that the publisher owns the copyright. See how it's stacked against you? Come up with the money? Can't yet? Oh, still ours. Oh, here's a release date, but no, not really. There's a couple of caveats here. Oh, you didn't quite get it off as there either, did you? Billboard has confirmed, though, that December 15, 2015, was when McCartney filed a termination notice of 32 of the songs with the U.S. Copyright Office. And what's more, another source confirmed that he's also filed termination notices for his songs that were issued on Beatles records from 1962 to 1964, those very early ones, although a lot of the titles he has moved to terminate were issued much later, including the 1969 and 1970 songs Come Together, Golden Slumbers, Carry That Weight, She Came In Through the Bathroom Window, and 7 others in the Abbey Road album, as well as the single tracks Don't Let Me Down, The Battle of John and Yoko, and most of the songs carry a termination date of October 2025. While Get Back, the song Get Back, has a termination date of April 18th, 2025. And Why Don't We Do It in the Road has a termination date of June 17th, 2025. A long way out there. According to the filing with the U.S. Copyright Office, McCartney has actually already sent Sony ATV Tunes a notice of a termination of grant under 17 U.S.C. Section 304C on December 15th last year by certified mail. Now, while a lot of the titles are widely acknowledged to be solo Lennon compositions, the Lennon-McCartney duo continued to share songwriting credits for the entire duration of the Beatles' existence. The act applies just to McCartney's share. Only the McCartney half of the Lennon-McCartney songs are eligible for termination, and only for the U.S. Sony still owns those Beatles songs in the rest of the world. You can check out, but you can never leave. In the case of Lennon, John Lennon, who died in 1980, the publisher's portion of his share of the Lennon-McCartney catalog for songs written in 1962 became eligible for reversion in 1990 because his death occurred during the first 28-year copyright term. But in 2009, Sony ATV cut a deal with its publisher's share for the life of the copyright, which lasts 70 years after the author's death. But where there are co-writers, the countdown begins after the last author dies. In this case, it would be Paul McCartney, of course, as he is still alive. So the clock hasn't begun to tick yet. What a game they play, don't they, in the Matrix? Control of people's lives. Asked whether Sony overpaid for Sony ATV, given the coming reversion, well, one source told me, no. Half of the Lennon-McCartney publishing for the world, excluding the U.S., is not exactly chump change by any stretch of the imagination. But it's going to be very interesting to see if Paul McCartney can get away with it. Escape the Matrix? I doubt it. I know he won't. So there was a lot of legal fights with Prince. But remember, all of those lawsuits that he tried to control his own material were of no avail. Because in 2013, Prince signed a major deal with Warner again. But the deal would also supposedly allow him to regain ownership of the master recordings made during his previous deal with Warner Brothers. But, alas, he died. Spaceman Talk Radio, AM 640. This is AVFS. More next. I'm the guy they call Space. It's a view from space. Name of the show. And that's all it is, really. It's just my view. My take on things. On Talk Radio, AM 640. So, space at 640toronto.com or spaceman at 640toronto.com is the only way I communicate. It's by email only. And I thank you for the one that you have sent me. I really appreciate it. Like, P.S. or let me just call this person PJ. The subject line states, Beetle Room. Hey, Space, sitting here in my Beetle Room. So glad you're touching on this. So I was talking about McCartney. She says, thank you very much. Writing from, I believe, Nova Scotia, province here in Canada. Now, another one writes, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. R.Y. writes this. I'm sure you just heard, as we all did during the last station news break, that Prince was cremated today. Wow. Somebody wasted no time dispatching his body, just like the coroner's report. It was done most expediently before anyone had time to check, ask any questions. David Bowie also cremated in a private, secret Balinese cremation ceremony soon after his passing, and his ashes were purportedly scattered in Bali by his family, according to his wishes. Robin Williams' body cremated the day after he died, and his ashes scattered in San Francisco Bay, this according to the official death certificate. My emailer closes with curiouser and curiouser. Yes, all of the ashes to ashes, they're sun worshippers. Fire is the sun's representative. And there's this by JT. Many intriguing happenings these days, starting off with the color purple. Just when you thought you were safe. Prince is in the third-person comment on his Instagram, removed immediately after his death. And his death really seems incredibly suspicious. And he writes, was his elevator ride going up or down? Did he have to go crazy to fulfill his end of the contract? He means with the devil, of course. Also, on his Twitter page, his icon has its third eye open. I guess that's maybe a part of being a Jehovah's Witness as well. He muses. Also, a fascination with the incoming black sun seems to be apparent from his Twitter account also. He made tons of great music, no doubt was an incredible musician. And it's an incredible thing that that elevator was the place where he dies. And the strange, incredibly suspicious comment on Instagram. Just when you thought you were safe. Maybe when he went back and signed with Warner, he thought, oh, well, I'm okay now. I won't have to pay the price. Well, it turned out he paid the price. I believe. Prince, another one of those men in the star-making machine world that possibly today worth more dead than alive. Sacrificed under the pink moon. The day before the night of the arrival of the moon. That is so powerful and potent, is the moon, the full moon that calls the date of Easter every year. And there's this. Hey, Space, after the death of Prince was announced, you see stadiums, sites around the world light up in purple. Doesn't the color purple mean royalty? Later, Space. Yes, it does. You know, the political parties around the world always have red and blue. One is red, the other blue. If you know an artist, you probably are aware of this if you don't hang around an artist or aren't one yourself. I'm talking about a painter. When you mix red and blue, do you know what you get? You get purple. Yes, purple. The two political parties, red and blue. There is one when are both mixed together creates another color, purple, which is royal. Royalty controls both parties. When you put them together, they become purple. They do the bidding of the royals. Which brings me to Purple Rain. Did you know Prince, 57, that's a 12, by the way. The Queen, 90. Exactly 33 years apart in age. The double three. Yes, not just an ordinary royal three, but a double three, doubly potent. The highest, of course, is a triplicate. To get the most power out of a spell cast. It's a Spaceman Talk Radio. More next. I'm a Spaceman. It's Talk Radio, AM 640. Emails to spaceman at 640toronto.com. Space at 640toronto.com. The other address. I tell you, overloaded tonight. Absolutely incredible. Especially when celebs die, and you know I'm going to be there for you. Giving you the, the alternative to the Illuminati-controlled mass media story. J.D. writes, did Prince predict his own death? Here are the lyrics. And I think you'll know the song. I'm not going to do it to the tune of the song, but the cadence. Before the Grim Reaper comes knocking on your door, tell me, are we gonna let the elevator bring us down? Oh no, let's go. Did he predict his own death? Writing it in the lyrics. Before the Grim Reaper comes knocking on your door. This is Let's Go Crazy lyrics. Tell me, are we going to let the elevator bring us down? Oh no, let's go crazy. Let's get nuts. Prince was found dead in an elevator, or so the Illuminati-controlled mass media tells us that's how it happened. Prince told fans April 16th, the day after he had an emergency landing at an Illinois hospital on his private jet on the way to a gig in Atlanta, Georgia that he never did make. And the rumor is starting to spread now because I believe they're going to say he drugged himself to death, an opiate. And it was said that they wanted him to stay there in that hospital, and he said, then I need a private room. They said they couldn't give it to him, so he packed up and left. Was in that hospital for 3 hours, got back on the airplane, took off, went home. That was April 15th. Died on April 16th. The day after that little shake-up hospital visit, April 16th, this week earlier, Prince told fans to wait a few days before saying prayers for him. How many days should they wait? Was he predicting his own death? Prince was also an epileptic. Epilepsy is known to produce temporal lobe visions of prophecy. And you know the Jehovah's Witnesses, they're the undisputed champions of prophecy. That's maybe why he was drawn into the conversation so often with Larry Graham. Before supposedly converting, he was a Seventh-day Adventist, we're told. Another religion centered around false prophecy. This from J.K., Great Falls, Montana. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate your insight to that. Now, here's something else. Hey, spaceman, listening from Nova Scotia. Just heard Prince has been cremated. Purple Rain. What is the meaning of Purple Rain? Well, the meaning of words, phrases, modern culture, always seem fragmented. And this is because there's a wide array of media and the tendency of different generations to channel themselves into the cultural media streams of their own generation. The meaning of Purple Rain is one of those phrases. It divides along age and cultural lines. Although the people who made this saying these two words popular might still be alive, they have not spoken out on the meaning of what they mean by that. For instance, Dewey Bunnell of the band America, who wrote the lyrics to Ventura Highway, where we first find the reference of Purple Rain. The last stanza of that hit song, Ventura Highway by America, goes, wishing on a fallen star, waiting for the early train. Sorry, boy, but I've been hit by purple rain. Aw, come on, Joe, you can always change your name. Thanks a lot, son, just the same. That's Ventura Highway by America. Leading into that, you hear someone, the narrator, asking Joe, how long is he going to stay in this town? Joe says, he's been hit by purple rain. This could point to a wanderlust, as some people have speculated. But that would beg the question, then why would the narrator then tell Joe they could always change his name? This implies that Joe is on the run. And the reason he's on the run has to do with purple rain. He's been hit by purple rain. Some believe that the purple rain in this case is actually a drug that makes the person so lazy to settle down in a place and consequently to work. This again seems unlikely, although a reference to alligator lizards in the air gives credence to that theory. And it's more likely that Joe is not merely subject to the blues and possibly drug problems, but has legal difficulties that he doesn't want to face. In this sense, the purple rain can simply be a hail of personal problems that are too formidable to face. And then Prince belongs to more than one generation, Purple Rain. And it was brought into the public psyche by another later rock star, Prince. And his full name, of course, Prince Rogers Nelson, wrote the lyrics for Purple Rain that are very repetitive, but the first stanza goes like this. I never meant to cause you any sorrow, I never meant to cause you any pain, I only wanted to one time see you laughing. I only wanted to see you laughing in the purple rain. And it would seem that in this case the purple rain has come nearly the opposite meaning of what Bunnell actually tried to get across in Ventura Highway. The desire for the woman's laughing means that the narrator wants the woman to be joyful, right? The color of royalty has traditionally been purple, so this rain must obviously be connected to Prince for his princely mantle, his name. He wished the woman would have accepted the love he wanted to shower upon her. Some have carried this notion to the idea that the rain is actually his tears, the purple rain, but rain could also be a pun. Replace rain with, the reign of a sovereign. And we see he wanted the woman to be happy under his rule, his reign. This makes Prince's purple rain even less like Bunnell's Ventura Highway purple rain. Purple rain for Prince is control, connection, even security. The rain that hit Joe in Ventura Highway keeps him unsettled, unsecure, and on the road, and running. As unalike as those meanings are for Purple Rain might be, because those are the two songs that mention it, have similarities in that they both have a wishful yearning for what might have been. They want the other person to do something that the other person seems positively unwilling to do. Ultimately, it's unlikely that the lyrics for Ventura Highway had any influence whatsoever on Prince's inspiration for Purple Rain. I mean, the Purple Rain theme fits too nicely into a hidden meaning that Prince just loved to do in his work, have hidden meanings. But then everyone in the occult loves the attributes of the occult as words having two meanings. I mean, all those songwriters get into that, don't they? What do they really mean by those words? Well, they're code words. If you don't know the code, you can't crack the story. As much conjecture as there has been over the words Purple Rain, it's hardly become commonplace in people's vocabulary. Purple Rain certainly seems personal to Prince and Bunnell's Ventura Highway song. But the meaning? We're not sure. Well, let me tell you this. I believe the color purple is royal for one reason and one reason alone. And why Prince associated himself with the color purple. For instance, he had purple cloths, purple instruments, famous for the song Purple Rain, of course. We also saw on TV purple balloons and flowers collecting at a memorial for him at Paisley Park, at his home. Then we're showing purple balloons everywhere for the Queen's birthday. Purple is the color of royalty. The reason? Many people have no idea. But I'll tell you right now why purple is the color of royalty. It comes from the the namesake of Queen Elizabeth II, Queen Elizabeth I, the most occult queen, and the one who expanded the British Empire farther than any other monarch before her. With her John Dee in her court as her James Bond, because that's where the James Bond stories all came from too. Queen Elizabeth I's occult court. You see, the color purple is made by mixing red and blue, and the dye is so expensive and rare that when Queen Elizabeth I saw it, she decreed, because of its expense and its rarity, that only members of the royal family could possibly ever wear it. So it became the royal color from Queen Elizabeth I, because the dye was so expensive and so rare. The mixture of the two political parties, reds and blues. Also, the day Prince died, the Broadway musical The Color Purple was performing. Did you know that? And the cast did a tribute to Prince and sang Purple Rain. Michelle Obama wore a purple dress when her and the president visited the Queen earlier this week. As a musician, he was known as Prince, and this name invokes thoughts of royalty. Therefore, Prince, purple, a match. It's a Spaceman Talk Radio, AM 640. More right after this break. I'm the guy they call a Spaceman. It's Talk Radio, AM 640. Please send your emails to spaceman@640toronto.com. The other address is space@640toronto.com. Communicate by email only. LW writes, sends me this quote, biblical quote, Revelation 17:4. I'll get to it in a minute. So he says, so why the color purple and thoughts of royalty consciously and unconsciously being invoked into our minds? My only guess is the elite are signaling each other a grand reveal is on the horizon. The purple carpet is being rolled out. Could the king of the world, the Antichrist, be ready for his arrival? For his revelation to be revealed? Speaking of revelation, he closes with this Bible quote, Revelation 17, verse 4. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. So the woman in Revelation is wearing the royal color. VD writes, the color purple or violet is associated with the crown chakra. Crown is also associated with royalty. IT writes, and I thought, hey, purple rain, as in R-E-I-G-N, as in a reign of tyranny, a reign of a king. He says, and I thought, hey, purple rain, about 30 seconds before you mentioned that. By the way, purple rain adds to 130 in numerology, or 4, being the number of foundation. Purple adds to 88 in a numerological sense. So there is so much. And it is true, words have more than one meaning. Sometimes more than two. The death of Prince even found its way into London, England, on the Queen's birthday. It's Barack Obama who mentioned Prince during his visit to London, in which he was there to see the Queen report on what had gone down with the Saudi king. Also, the rest of the royal family, as well as David Cameron, was there. Obama even attended an event I found quite telling in itself at the United States Embassy in London on April 21st, the day Prince died. There was a commemorative ceremony held in Prince's honor on his death. Now, you may have caught this, as well as myself and a few others, but on April 21st, the Queen's birthday, also the death date of the musician Prince, a new prince came into the world as Prince, the musician, left this world. The day also happened to be the day that all Sweden cheered the newest member of Sweden's royal family, the bloodline relatives of Queen Elizabeth, by the way. The newborn prince has been named Prince Alexander Erik Hubertus Bertel. King Carl Gustaf the 16th of Sweden told the Swedish journalists who were gathered at the royal palace, "It's a great day, and it's a great thing that the stork has been active for the Bernadotte family this spring." See, it is possible in the world of the occult and black magic that the birth of this new prince on the day of Prince, the American musician, dying, were in fact part of an ancient occult ritual that involves the spirit of a person leaving one body and reincarnating, enter immediately, if the timing is correct, to immediately enter another body to continue that spirit's life on the wheel of evolution. Transformation of a man to Godhead through a series of incarnations. Ever heard of such a thing as seventh heaven? That's what is meant. The Illuminati believe that a person is reincarnated a total of 7 times, perfecting the soul on that last and 7th incarnation. He or she is then transformed into a god or goddess in that incarnation. Man becomes God. Yes, royalty was indeed the message that the Illuminati wanted to impart to the world this entire week. The week that started the Feast of the Beast on the Tuesday, April 19th, is done every year until May 1st. 13 days of sacrifices of blood to appease the satanic entity that's behind the Feast of the Beast. The week started with the two brothers fighting with lightsabers, the royal brothers, Prince William and Prince Harry. Then Barack Obama, snubbed by the Saudi Arabian royal family King Solomon, refusing to welcome the President of the United States at his arrival in Riyadh. The Prince of Riyadh, instead, was sent to the airport, showing the Saudis disgust, displeasure with the United States as being perceived as the instigator, which is, of course, striking the deal with the Iranians over nuclear weapons and allowing them, Iran, to have their assets unfrozen, which now allows them to sell Iranian oil on the world market, cutting further into the paralyzation of Saudi Arabia. This is Spaceman Talk Radio, AM 640. Coming back with more in a moment. On a guy to call Space, it's a View from Space on Talk Radio, AM 640. Final segment in tonight's show. So, as I've been saying, Prince, that word has stretched the entirety of this week that features the beginning of the Feast of the Beast, 13 days of blood sacrifice. And I've shown you once again this year, as it happens every year, these accidents or these crimes are not really accidents or crimes. They're rituals being enacted toward the furthering of the goal of the New World Order. they cause disruption, destruction, which is what the elites want to do with this current system we're living in. Yes, it's all being done now. I believe next on the agenda for the Illuminati will be the Illuminati pushing Israel to agree to taking land from them, what's now called Israel, and making it into a Palestinian state. This New World Order agenda calls for another world war, as it will take 3 of them to finally convince the world's masses for the need to implement a one-world government and a new religion along with it to replace the troubled old 3 monotheistic religions that will be blamed for all the troubles the earth has ever seen. You know as well as I that the major industrial nations of the world's economies are doing very poorly. The elites are doing this on purpose to force the world into the final stages of the great work, which is what they call the destruction of this current economic system of borders, protectionism, and replacing it with a one-world government where there are no borders, there are no currencies, and one man there to lead us all. The one king, one kingdom scenario. I tell you now, all the politicians in the world have been carefully handpicked to get this job done. Just yesterday, the Double 11 Day, meaning a double dose of destruction coming to the current economic system, April 22nd, yesterday. That was the day we call Earth Day. 175 nations, it's a hidden 13, by the way, signed a legal binding document at the United Nations building in New York City yesterday for climate change. Legally binding. This gathering of 175 leaders in New York marked the first step towards binding countries legally to pledges they've made to cut emissions. Put your money where your mouth is now. Give us your tax-paying dollars from your people, leaders. That's what you were there for to do, to collect it, and to ratify the Paris climate deal. And get the ball rolling on plans to check global warming, as they call it. This event, the signing of that bill, the United Nations for Climate Change, also meticulously planned down to the exact date and time. Numerology is so important to these people. The legal binding signing came on April 22, Earth Day. How appropriate. And it comes exactly 4 months after the deal was clinched and everybody said, yeah, okay, we'll sign in Paris. 4 months. 4 is the number of foundation. Because that Paris climate change meeting, where they all agreed to sign this later, is the foundation for them of the signing, which happened yesterday, right in the 13-day window of the Feast of the Beast, and marks the first step towards a binding legal agreement of countries that signed to the promises they made to cut greenhouse gas emissions. Or, to put it more realistically, put your money where your mouth is and collect, well, a whole billions of dollars from the have nations and give it to the have-not nations. another way to move one huge chunk of money from one side of the earth to the other. A massive reallocation of cash from one area to the other. Why? To weaken it. To make them all compete on the same ground, the same level. And when they all have to compete, protectionism, putting up barriers, fighting one another, thereby destroying one another. Because chaos creates change, and change is what the elites want with this world. So as I said, all of the world's leaders that are in positions of power are put there, placed there, purposely, and know what their job is. Barack Obama, snubbed by the Saudis after he gives them the bad news. Imagine being finally welcomed in England one day after the snubbing of Saudi Arabia, with Prince Philip becoming Barack Obama's chauffeur to give him a lift to Windsor Castle along with the Queen. That really happened. Snubbed by the King of Saudi Arabia and given a low-ranking prince to welcome him. When he gets to England, though, where they've ordered him to go to Saudi Arabia, and the ones that are pushing this agenda throughout the world, that powerhouse has the wife or the husband of the Queen of England as his chauffeur, driving him to Windsor Castle, along with the Queen in the back seat. It really happened. It left the British press baffled by the fondness shown to Barack Obama and his wife Michelle on their visit to England. I say why. Barack Obama is a direct descendant of King Edward I of Scotland. He is royalty. He's part of the family. He's doing the family's bidding. Yes, Barack Obama found himself being chauffeured by the 94-year-old Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip, when he arrived for lunch at Windsor Castle. The Obamas had flown to Windsor from Winfield House in Regent's Park, home of the U.S. ambassador, Matthew Barzun. Now, his personal helicopter, Marine One, landed on the golf course of the 16,000-acre estate next to the castle walls there at Windsor Castle, the one that William the Conqueror had built. And shortly after that arrival of Marine One, a couple of other choppers carrying the U.S. media and the presidential entourage and security detail arrived. As the blades of the president's chopper stopped, the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip, husband of Queen Elizabeth II, pulls his navy blue Range Rover forward so he and the Queen could welcome their guests. A bodyguard then jumps behind the wheel and turns the car around, ready for the Duke to make this return journey. Then, as the Americans were led to the car, Barack Obama seemed completely bemused by the seating arrangements. He first tries to get into the back seat, where he's used to sitting, of course, before being told by the Queen's personal protection officers that Her Majesty was going to sit there. Finally, with a huge smile, he gets into the front passenger seat. He looks up next to him. It's the Duke of Edinburgh at the wheel of the Rover. Once the Queen and Michelle Obama, wearing Oscar de la Renta, had settled into the rear seats so they could chat with one another, the Duke was off driving the foursome around the 400 yards or so to the castle itself. He was a member of the family. That's why they treated him as such. All of the politicians around the world are put in place for that particular purpose of forwarding the agenda of the Illuminati. This has been a View from Space on Talk Radio AM 640. Coast to Coast is next. I'm Space, and